think we're good.
What?
I said I think we're good.
Okay. Never ever throw a med ball at somebody doing presses. That's it for 40-Fit Fu.
So how are you guys doing today? We're calling this the potpourri episode. Let me explain a little bit about this episode. It's episode 9 of 40-Fit Fu. If you've watched In Living Color, which this is my second reference to In Living Color, they would have almost like a Jeopardy style game called the Dirty Dozens, which is like your mama's so fat jokes or your mama's so this jokes. And so it would be like, hey, your mama's so fat for 200, your mama's so small for 200, and then another category would be potpourri. And I always loved it when they were like, I'll take potpourri for 400, Stu. And it was just a random thing. So we thought that we could do 40-Fit Fu, the potpourri episode.
Right, not meaning that this is just a very well-scented episode.
Even though we do believe in being well-scented.
We do. Hygiene is a big thing, by the way. We're going to keep
yeah.
on that. But if you notice, we're actually live from the gym. We're from the Wah Lum Fit Studio, the Control Your Health Studio, where all the magic and all the exciting fitness takes place.
This is where the magic happens. We just finished a couple of classes back to back, and then we just Mimi just happened to have a meeting here, and we're like, you know what? Let's just do it from the studio.
Yeah.
Let's mix it up.
Let's mix it up. This is why it's the potpourri edition. So I've got a bunch of people that are logging on now. Hello, I got a nice House of Pain. That's right. This sometimes could be known as the House of Pain. Actually, earlier we were both doing some strength exercises. Mm-hmm. So these are med ball slams, which is really nice to kind of get out your aggression.
Yes.
So I highly recommend Kung Fu, and I highly recommend fitness in general as kind of an outlet for you to de-stress. I don't know if we've talked about that yet.
The outlet?
No, de-stressing.
Yeah. I don't know. I think almost anything that you do movement-wise, exercise-wise, can be considered a way to de-stress. But a couple things here. Let's talk about, right? One is life in general can be pretty stressful, right? Work can be stressful, your family life, a lot of things can be stressful. So you have to take all of that into account when you're going to do a fitness routine, even if it's Kung Fu. So because Kung Fu, strength training, all of that is also a stress. Usually it can be a positive stress. However, if you are overloaded with too much stress and then you add an additional stimulus of stress the wrong way, right, exercise can be a negative. But if you do it the right way, it's going to balance things out. It'll let you kind of let go of a lot of stuff.
Let it go,
yeah.
Right. So one of the things that we were talking about earlier was obviously using all these tools and these fun things to keep fit for Kung Fu, but just kind of jumping off of the de-stressing. I always tell my students, you know, when you drive to the temple, or for those of you, wherever you are, when you drive to your Kung Fu school, when you go to that place where you're there to train, just to kind of put yourself in that mindset from the get-go, and that way you are already de-stressing because you're there to do exactly that. And that will also help keep you injury free, is if you kind of are there and like you said, not putting an extra stress by going, oh, I gotta go to Kung Fu today, it's gonna be a whole ordeal. When I get there, you kind of bring it in with you. You don't bring in the stress into the temple, like literally, like the Kung Fu temple. We want you to just be focused on your activity. And I think this is something where you can kind of talk about maybe the sciencey part of it, where like cortisol levels or whatnot, and the reason that, like, if you have to know your limit, right? So
right.
If it's too much stress that you're putting on your body, whereas we want the martial arts training to be more of a positive,
right?
Effect.
So now I can't really go into too much sciencey stuff because I don't really know that much. However, I will say that cortisol is a stress hormone, right? But cortisol is also a necessary hormone. Mm-hmm. So for example, when we wake up in the morning and we get sunlight and we start moving on, cortisol starts rising to get us prepared for the day. But throughout the day, as the sun sets and whatnot, and you start getting relaxed, we should start to let that cortisol come down. Melatonin comes up, which starts preparing us for sleep. The problem being that because we don't let ourselves be in what we kind of were evolved to do, which is to hunt and gather and express ourselves.
You don't hunt during the day? Where do you think I get all that the meat from? No, I'm just
I do like to throw spears every once in a while, but it's unintentional. But because we don't get to do all the things that we were kind of meant and evolved to do, we get a lot of like this short, steady, stress, and we don't allow ourselves to let it balance out. And so yes, if you are waking up not getting enough sleep, on your phone all day, on phone calls that stress you out, at work stressing yourself out, not eating the right things, all these things are negative inputs. And so if all those things are negative, then when you bring it to your training session, it's going to be more of a negative input that you may not need. So it's a little bit about we've talked about before, being self-aware, being aware of kind of where you're at in life. A nice way to think about it is in your life in general, give it like a color code. Like, are you green lit for exercise? Are you yellow, or are you red? And if you're red, if your life is all red, then maybe exercise may not be the best thing for you at that point. Maybe meditation may be the right point for you. So you gotta take a lot of those things into account. And just like almost anything else, it depends. It depends on your specific situation.
And over the last, I can't believe this is episode 9 now.
Yeah,
oh my
9
gosh,
weeks.
9 weeks of commitment. We should be getting. This is where we need all the positive reinforcement.
Is that Christine Lamb is watching?
Christine Lamb is watching. Hi, Christine. We need a lot of positive reinforcement and tell us that we're doing a good job, that the last 9 weeks haven't just been us kind of talking
to each other.
Although this is nice.
This is nice.
I don't know if you joined us last week. We were there by candlelight because we had no power, and so this is why we were in the studio today too, just in case, because there's electricity here. So it's very helpful to have electricity. But we talked about recovery, stretching, mobility, strength, nutrition, endurance. Last week we talked about finding the time to do all of this, and this is specifically, and I know, Christine, for example, is nowhere near 40, but as you do get older, the stress does start to weigh on you. And I'm actually going to call out the younger millennials and teens. I've actually seen a trend where they're super stressed and they put all these pressures on them with tests and school, and it just becomes this thing. And I think that learning to, like you said, kind of color code for you, like code red, today is not a good day to work out. However, that doesn't mean you can't be doing something to keep you on track for your fitness.
We call that active recovery.
Yeah, and we talked about that in episode 2, where we talked about recovery, active recovery. So there are still things that you can be doing in the meanwhile. So it doesn't mean, just because you didn't come in and do that crazy hardcore, workout, doesn't mean you failed. And it doesn't mean you're not still moving towards your goal.
Yeah, so active recovery, to talk a little bit about that, is doing things to promote your healthy lifestyle. So based on where you're at, maybe it is coming in and doing an intense Kung Fu class. Maybe it's doing some strength training like what we were trying to attempt to show earlier. But maybe it could be meditation. Maybe it could be spending some quality time with family and friends. All of these things, going for a walk, all of these things, as long as it's moving you towards the direction of a healthier lifestyle, can still be considered part of your plan. So we call that active recovery.
This is the random episode.
This is the random episode.
Just
so we can just
mix it up now. We should change it.
Yeah.
I got a question, which is awesome. Please ask questions, by the way, because it helps us as we stand up here,
while you're there, I'm just going to
thinking
stretch
of what
real
we
quick.
should be doing. Hanging is a really great thing, but the question here is, any ideas how to obtain both the Iron Torrent over 40, one-legged low stance and rise back up? Oh boy.
We're talking about a straight leg, a single leg deadlift.
A single leg deadlift, yeah. So let's talk about that one, which is the one-legged low stance.
Today might be a good day to show this, actually.
Yeah, because we're actually in the studio today, which is kind of awesome.
Okay. So how do you want to approach this?
Let's approach
you
it.
start.
Let's regress it. So what we like to say is, if you're sitting there and you've watched Grandmaster Chan, which is, I'm guessing, where this main question has come from, right? So the Tom Tui in the Wah Lum style, or the pistol if you're a kettlebell guy, one-legged
single leg deadlift. I mean single leg squat.
Single leg squat. If you're in fitness, right? It's been called many a thing. So for us, that's a big deal. I'd like to use Oscar as an example, actually, because Oscar, when he first started his Kung Fu training, he was not 3 like me, and so this is where we like to talk about the differences of when you get, and he couldn't do a 2-legged squat. And now, I don't know if we should put him on the spot, but now
I could do one.
Now he can do his Tom Tui. So, he's got to warm up the knees. But basically, like any other exercise, what we like to do is called a regression. So let's just go ahead and let's just
How would I do it?
Let's do the regression. So first,
let me back up a little bit.
Let's move this kettlebell because we got to keep the gym safe. We always got to keep things safe in the
see
gym.
here real quick. All right, so
now it's going to be a weird
the
angle because we're gonna be tilting down a bit here, so you can kind of see Oscar This guy could not do a regular squat.
Okay.
The pressure is on. This is live.
The pressure's on. All right. This is going to be super fast, right? And remember, not everybody is the same, right? Everyone's got their own issues. But you do need to be able to do a regular squat. There's a lot of steps to even be able to do that. But let's assume...
Let's just do it first because I'm holding the camera really weird, and then we can talk later.
Okay, so here's a regular two-leg squat. I like people to be able to do rock bottom squat here, be able to hang out here like you're in China, having some noodles,
having a little rice,
whatever it is, right?
Noodles if you're in the north, rice if you're in the south.
That's the first step. The second thing, and I may fall on my butt, but I'm okay with that, is that I like people to start then working themselves to doing a two-leg squat with the feet touching because it's a bigger demand on your overall mobility. So you just need to be able to do a rock bottom squat here.
Very nice. That's so nice.
Appreciate that. All right, and then the next step is
honorary
instead of having
Asian.
someone worry about the balance part of balancing on one leg and going down, a great way to teach it is the same way that we learned how to squat is being from the floor to standing. So if I'm on the floor here and I can straighten out one leg, then we can just start practicing balancing, right? Balancing from here, and then the next step is, okay, I'm going to now brace and stand up, right? And so it's easier to work your way from down to up than going all the way up and down. And then the last one, and I'm going to hope and pray that my leg doesn't cramp up on me here, is to go from standing, squatting all the way down, and then
excellent, not just for being of age, but also for starting so much later in life. So obviously if you kind of have that mobility already and you already are able to squat, a problem that I had was having not enough strength. So even though I had the mobility to get into the movement, having the strength to kind of push up through the ground and learning like where my knee and where my ankle needed to be was kind of a big deal for me. So as I got older, I was able to kind of make those adjustments and kind of learn from that. So, but that's a really quick and easy way in terms of regressions. So if you can't even do a squat with the proper alignment, you have no business doing it. There's another little technique, which is if we had like a chair, you could practice kind of sitting down onto the chair and sitting back and then kind of pushing through your foot back up. Just again, the biggest thing is making sure that you have good alignment. You know, but that was really good.
Hey, thanks,
and a high five for that.
So a couple things there is if we even talk about doing the correct squat, your joints have to work a certain way. Your ankle joint has to kind of work, your knee, your hips, your thoracic spine, all these things kind of have to work. So I've said this multiple times already on this, on our little 40 Fit Food podcast, is get your joints through full ranges of motion every single day, because what happens is, let's use my arm as an example, and I practice taking my shoulder through its full range of motion every single day. It's not that every single day I'm going to be in this position, but when it comes a point that I have to do that, then my body's not going to freak out. And the same thing with your knee and your ankle. So if you never take your joints to their full range of motion, and then you then ask them to do something that they're not used to, you're asking for them to be, you're asking for injury. So yes, we want to practice really good form, but that doesn't mean that we should then not prepare for improper form, which does happen. So again, my philosophy on that is train every position. Every position is worthwhile to train as long as you do it in a smart way.
Yeah, I mean, I've even heard stories where people are like, oh my gosh, you know, I fell down, you know, the stairs or whatever, but because I learned to roll in Kung Fu, or because I learned like when we were doing falls or something, like I didn't break something, you know, like so little things like that. Like you said, train every position. It'd be really awesome if you actually get yourself into a situation, even car accidents. I've heard people were like, oh, but because I've been able to be more mobile and stretch or whatever, I was a little more flexible. Like it's when your body is resisting, isn't that right, that you really can have a lot of issues too.
It's when so injury happens when the force that's put into the tissue is more than what it's capable of receiving, more than its capacity. And so you'll never be able to know what the capacity is if you don't even put it in that position to begin with. So even though we don't want to be practicing a certain technique incorrectly that'll injure us, that doesn't mean that you can't prepare the joint for getting in that position. And that's a lot more involved than what we can do here.
On the random episode.
If you want more information, come and see me, and
yes.
I can talk to you about that. But because that is kind of a little bit more individualized.
Yeah, well, a quick one for you Wah Lum members. Actually, don't forget, in a week we have the Wah Lum anniversary, and so we have a really cool warrior challenge, which is an obstacle course all around the compound. And Coach/Sifu Oscar is doing this really great seminar. In addition to there's some Tai Chi stuff going on, but also you're going to be going over some mobility.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff that I've been talking about here, but really
Much
kind
more
of digging into the why it's, because the thing, here's what I find is that if I can explain to someone why something that we do is so important and what the benefits are and what they are long term, you're much more inclined than to put in the work, as opposed to, it's very rare, there are some people, but it's very rare that you can tell someone, hey, you need to do this, and then you walk away. You've given them your advice, all your knowledge, and they don't do it. Why? Because they don't really understand the reason behind it. They don't believe in it. They don't understand, all these things. So I'm going to try to connect those dots for people in a couple weeks.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a lot of fun. The really cool thing about us here at Wah Lum is we have a nice big family, and so I know a lot of the other schools are joining us. A lot of you that have been on here watching. Those of you not local, sorry, too bad. But we are here though for you every Tuesday for the last 9 weeks.
And you can always ask questions.
And counting. And please ask questions. You don't have to ask questions only when we are live. If you go back on, or you're watching this post live, or after you're not home yet or whatever, you can still ask questions in this about anything we talked about today.
And we will always try to get to it.
We will try to get to it. Or you can send us an email or go to any of our social media and social media us.
Yeah, I mean, as it was just proven with this whole one leg squat thing. It's almost like I'm like a trained dog. Like, okay, let's see a straight leg, a tam tui. Go ahead and do it. So we would, so if it's feasible, we'll do it, right? We'll try to answer the questions for you in whatever way that we can. Yeah, it's like, here you go, Oscar. Come on.
I mean, normally though, I'd have to be like, here's a snack. You're gonna get a treat.
True.
Which of course leads us to, once again, as you know, what time it is.
Dinner time.
It's time to go to dinner time. So hopefully you really enjoyed this random episode that we didn't actually have planned. Not that every episode that you've watched has been this like amazingly planned out thing, but really we do kind of have a topic that we'd like to go over. So, but today we kind of wanted to just wing it. We're in the studio. We thought we'd get some equipment, and then look at that. We got a really cool question, and hopefully we'll see a lot of you doing the Wah Lum Tam Tui, Master Chan's signature move.
His move.
As you can see, if Oscar can do it.
Hey man, if I can do it, anybody can do it. Believe me, I could not even do a squat.
Before we sign off, I want to say he took a year. I'm not even lying. A year to be able to do the squat properly, and I mean with like 2 feet and everything, and do it really well. I actually think he's, not just honorary Asian. I mean, I think your squat's better than mine now.
Honorary Asian. Wow. I don't know about that, but I'm gonna keep working on it. I'm gonna keep trying to improve.
Honorary Asian in terms of like squatting.
Okay. Yeah, right. I know that.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Okay, got it.
All right. Turn on notifications. Don't forget about questions. Send us all of your feedback. And I think those are all the things I'm supposed to say at the end of the podcast. Join us next week.